Welcome guys, welcome back to the channel and to another video. So now in the last video I did the gearbox conversion wiring. So I sorted out the wiring from the DQ200 to DQ250 gearbox. So that has all been wired in and soldered up together, plugged it into the computer, and I have like good communication with the system. So now in this episode we will be dealing with the coding of the ECUs and the gearbox, because since this gearbox is over DQ250, I have to recode everything, make sure that all of the stuff is aligned to the immobilizer of the car, because I think the gearbox might have some immobilizer as well coded into it, but we shall see. So the guy is on his way. He's gonna come through to code up the ECU. So remember, I've got the Golf R ECU, which is the DJH engine ECU, the one that has 310 horsepower, if I'm not mistaken, or 228 kilowatts. So that's the ECU that I was thinking of coding into this car. Obviously now we have to do the immobilizer delete, defeating of that, and then try and recode that ECU back into this car, and then match up all the keys and everything if I'm going to go down that route of using this ECU of this car. So not of this car but of the Golf one. So that's another thing that needs to happen. Another thing that we thought about and had a discussion with the guy that's going to come through and do the coding, he did mention a couple of things. Obviously now the immobilizer being the biggest issue in this regards, because it could be a problem trying to code it back in, or VW might deny access for me to code this thing back again. So he made some suggestions on we could either just reuse my current ECU one and then just flash it up with the engine side of things from the Golf R. So I think that's a good idea. I think that's the one that I might go for if this one fails, because another issue that we might have is now that, because I've got the Golf R ECU, whenever I plug it into the car now will identify as a Golf, and I don't want that on my car. I want it to still be identifying as an A3. So having to deal with all of those mappings and stuff might be a bit challenging. So yeah, so that's another thing that why I want to actually avoid this. So let me quickly show you what I'm talking about. Right, so this is the ECU that I have of a Golf 7.5R 2019 year model, and this is my current ECU. So if we plug this, obviously it has immobilizer information of the car that it came off, so it might give me issues. Obviously it's not going to allow me to even start the car for that matter until the immobilizer has been defeated, and the immobilizer maybe of the car of my one coded back into this ECU, if it's even technically possible. I'm not sure. Leave a comment and explain to me if you guys know how it's all done. I think Otis can do that. I'm not too sure of that. So because that has immobilizer information of the other car, it would be tricky obviously to have to try and match it all up, try and get this one working onto the car, and this one obviously it's off my car. I'm sure if I plug this in, it should be able to start the car up, because it still has all this stuff for my car. I'm sure it should be able to fire it up, but however it won't have the necessary files or power. It won't be producing the full potential of this DJH engine. So hence why my guess or what I'm thinking of doing is just to take the engine file of the Golf, flash it off to this, and then it will give the engine its all full potential as it should for the Golf. Next step, obviously, after we sort out the ECU stuff, it's a matter of now coding back the gearbox. Because obviously this is a DQ250 gearbox. It's a 6-speed one, and the old one was a 7-speed DSG. So obviously do the adaptation, code up everything back into place, make sure that the mechatronics is obviously coded up and working and matched up with the VIN number of this car. So the guy is on his way. He's gonna be the one who's gonna sort us out with doing all of this, and then once he's done coding back the ECU, we'll obviously give it a start and see. It will definitely run, because obviously this ECU is of this car. And then just make sure that we can select gears obviously, and then it can roll and move under its own power, because once that is out, we just have to test if everything is all good. Okay, so yeah, no, the guy did his coding part. He did the ECU part because he doesn't have the software to do. I think we need Otis to actually do the gearbox coding. So he doesn't have Otis on his disposal, but he managed to flash out the file that we need and then copy it over the information onto this ECU. So basically, we should be at a good point where we can start the car. So yeah, the next step, obviously the gearbox won't work because it says transmission is locked due to obviously it being off another car. We have to do the whole programming via Otis, and then that we can worry about it later. I do have a guy who's going to assist me with that. He has Otis, so he's going to try and come through sometime, and then we'll finish up. So if now we jump into the car, it should start. So obviously I've got a couple of faults on the dash. Yeah, there's a ton of them actually. Washer fluid, all of those, coolant, the basic stuff that you get. So this gearbox malfunction, obviously I think it's because it's it's not communicating properly, I believe, and obviously the versioning is different. That has to still be adjusted to the car. But I'm sure if we can swing it right now, it should swing because the ECU anyway is from this car, so we just mapped it up for the engine side of things. So so right, here goes. No reverse. Running, and it's sounding amazing actually. Right, beautiful. So yeah, it runs beautifully. Just need obviously to sort out the gearbox. Just pack this up nice and neatly. Yeah, and then we should be at a good space where we can focus on doing the rest. But for now, I'm gonna call it a day here until I get the gearbox guy to come and fit it and finalize the coding for me. So yeah, the car runs, the car drives. No, sorry, it doesn't drive, but it runs. It runs. Then we can sort out the remaining stuff, which is the gearbox. Right, so it's the next day, and the gearbox and the ECU have now been coded in. So the guy obviously did the ECU mapping we mapped up the file from the Golf R into the car. He also did the gearbox coding as well. Another guy came through and did the gearbox coding via the online Otis software because I needed that since the transmission was locked. So now it is now engaging gear. You can put it in drive, and then the car now actually rolls forward. But however, I still have a warning on the dash saying the gearbox malfunction, and there's no reverse gear. So when I scan the car, it's telling me that the clutch 2 opens up unintentional or something like that along those lines. I'll put a screenshot somewhere onto the screen so that you can see what it says. So I reached out to one of the guys who are gearbox specialists, and then they told me that the mechatronics is faulty for the gearbox, which is a bit of a painful one because it's not cheap. It's an expensive bill for one of those. So however, I have managed to source one out. One of the guys hooked me up with another mechatronics. Is going to come through and then fit it in and then code it all back up to the car.
Many hours later.
So this is a mechatronics, and it's an expensive piece of hardware, really. The reason why I have one here is because I've got gearbox issues on the old mechatronics, so it wasn't engaging reverse gear. So that's the old one. That's the new one that I managed to source out. So it wasn't engaging reverse. It was complaining about clutch to opening unintentionally. Sometimes it wouldn't engage gears properly. It would have a weird clanking sound. I managed to source this one out for a fraction of a price. Shout out to the guy who supplied it to me. And then that's the old unit, that's dead. This one is going to be replaced. So now I've already done most of the work. Sorry for the poor lighting. I've already obviously removed it there. So I need to now take this guy and then fit it back into the car. Alright, so the covers have been put back in. It's all nice and torqued up to spec. Next step is the DSG service. I'm going to be pouring fresh oil, so I've already removed the cap. I've already removed the oil filter. It's there we go. So that's the old oil filter that came out straight to the bin. I'm going to be fitting up with the new one, so I'm going to be filling it up with fresh DSG oil. Put back the sump, obviously, and the small that plastic one, and then the big one, and then pour it with 6 liters. So that's the next step. And then the DSG oil in question that I'll be using is this one, Wolf DSG fluid. I have about 6 liters of them, because this is a liter each. And then obviously put in the oil filter, put in the O-ring for the DSG gearbox. So once I'm done, run it up to temperature, shift it up to all the gears, see if it's engaging the gears properly, and yeah. Now I need to find a final so that I can put all of this back in. So this process is quite slow. So I will actually, what I'll do is I'll fill it all up, and then I'll catch you when I'm actually done filling this thing up, because it is, you know, draining quite slowly. So I don't want to just waste your time just watching all of this oil go down slowly. So I'll catch you guys shortly. So a matter of just letting that one drain in. That's the DSG that I used. This video is not sponsored, by the way, but we shall see how it performs after that. Then this can go straight into the bin. And the next step now, once that oil is flushed down, take the oil filter, put it back in, and then run the car, and then engage all the gears from P, reverse, hold it for about 15 seconds or so, drive, neutral and drive, and then sport, and then back to P. I'm not gonna run it up to temperature, obviously, because I don't have any coolant lines connected as yet, but technically I should run the gearbox up until I think 40 degrees Celsius, if I'm not mistaken, and then drain the excess oil from the gearbox. And then once it stops draining, well, then obviously the higher level will be reached, I believe. So yeah, maybe I'll get the air filter, the oil filter. Right. DSG service has been done, filter is back in, and yeah, next up we can start up the car and see if it runs. Alright, so everything is now done. Gearbox service has been done. Just connected back the battery. so that I can take it out for a drive, because I did the basic settings already. So that was successful. Everything was done via VCDS. And yeah, the next step now obviously would be just to jump into the car. And then just start up the car. Obviously I still have no coolant in the car, so I can pop it in reverse, and then there we go. It's driving. And then it's driving. Yep. So, gearbox successful, DQ. Let me just turn this thing off quickly. So yeah, there we go. DQ 250 upgrade done. Successfully coded into the car. It's now communicating with the car. It drives, it goes into drive, no errors whatsoever on the dash. Quite happy with that. And then the next step now is to tackle the cooling system, fit back the entire cooling system, and then yeah, we see where we go from there. We should be able to take it off for our first drive once we are happy with that. So that's good news. No errors, nothing is coming up, no gearbox malfunction whatsoever. Everything has been coded up nicely and correctly. The car drives, the car accelerates, everything drives smoothly. Yeah, then now we have to go on to the next step. All right, so I'm gonna end it here. That was a successful fix for the gearbox. After encountering some issues, managed to source out a new mechatronics unit that's been fitted in and coded back into the car. Fresh oil filled into the gearbox, did the basic settings and adaptations through VCDS. I had to connect VCDS and perform basic settings. If you want to see how that's done, just comment down below, and then I'll show you how it's all done. I'll leave some steps in the description down below on what to do. That has successfully finished up, and yeah, that should be the end of that, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please do hit the like button, dislike if you do not like, subscribe to the channel. It helps me grow, and then I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.